The Grand Meridian Ballroom glittered with the kind of Christmas elegance that money buys but warmth never touches. Crystal chandeliers cast dancing shadows across marble floors while a string quartet played carols no one really heard. Victoria Lang stood near the towering Christmas tree, one hand resting protectively on her 7-month belly, the other clutching champagne she wouldn't drink. Her emerald gown shimmered under the lights, but her smile had long since lost its sparkle. Tell us what time you're watching and where you're tuning in from. Drop a comment below, because what happens next will remind you that justice sometimes arrives in the most unexpected disguise. Across the ballroom, her husband Marcus Lang held court with investors, his laughter too loud, his hand too familiar on his assistant's waist. Rebecca Stone wore crimson like a warning, leaning close to whisper things that made Marcus smirk. Victoria had learned to ignore it, the late nights, the perfume that wasn't hers, the way his eyes went cold whenever she walked into a room. She'd convinced herself that silence was survival, that endurance was love. "Victoria, darling," Rebecca's voice cut through the music, saccharine and sharp. "Careful near the tree. We wouldn't want you to trip in your condition." The insult landed soft but deliberate. Victoria felt heat rise to her cheeks as nearby guests paused their conversations. Marcus turned, not with concern but with irritation. "Don't be so sensitive," he muttered, his breath carrying the scent of expensive whiskey. "She's just being thoughtful." "She's being cruel," Victoria whispered, her voice breaking despite herself. His fingers closed around her wrist, firm, controlling, a warning disguised as a touch. "Lower your voice, you're embarrassing me." The pressure increased. "Smile, that's what they came to see." She tried to pull away, but his grip tightened. Around them, conversations died. Someone's phone camera turned. The music seemed to fade into something ominous. Then Marcus's face changed, jaw clenched, eyes dark with rage barely contained beneath expensive cologne and tailored suits. What happened next occurred in slow motion for everyone watching. His foot lifted. The kick connected with her hip, deliberate, brutal, unmistakable. Victoria stumbled backward into the Christmas tree. Ornaments shattered like her illusions, scattering across marble in gold and crimson fragments. She fell, arms instinctively wrapping around her belly, protecting the only innocent thing left in her life. The ballroom fell silent. The quartet's violins hung suspended mid-note. Gasps rippled through the crowd like a wave of collective horror. Someone screamed. Phones rose like a forest of judgment, every lens capturing the moment a powerful man became a monster in a tuxedo. Victoria looked up through tears, seeing Marcus standing above her, not reaching down, not apologizing. Just standing there, fists clenched, face red, not with shame, but with fury that she'd made him look bad. Then the doors burst open. Snow swirled in on a gust of December wind, and through that white blur stepped a figure in a red Santa suit, black boots crunching on scattered glass. He tore off the fake beard with shaking hands, revealing a face lined with age and absolute fury. "Victoria!" the voice thundered across the silent ballroom. "Sweetheart, what did he do?" The room held its breath. Victoria blinked through pain and disbelief. "Dad!" James Lang, not her father by blood but by choice, the billionaire CEO who'd married her mother when Victoria was 12, crossed the ballroom in heavy strides. He knelt beside her, his Santa coat spreading across the floor like a protective shield. "Did he kick you?" he asked quietly, though the answer was written across her face, captured on a dozen cameras, witnessed by 100 people. Marcus's confidence faltered. "James, this is a misunderstanding. You just ended everything you've built." James's voice was quiet, but it carried the weight of decades of power. He lifted Victoria gently from the floor, cradling her as if she weighed nothing. "Someone call an ambulance, now." The crowd erupted into motion, security moving, guests whispering, reporters already typing. Marcus stood frozen as his world began its collapse, watching his father-in-law carry his wife toward the doors while snow drifted in behind them. "Silent night, holy night," the speakers played softly, hauntingly, as if the universe itself was bearing witness. By the time the ambulance arrived, the video had already spread like wildfire. Within an hour, Santa Justice was trending worldwide. The footage was everywhere: Marcus's kick, Victoria's fall, James's entrance, the snow swirling through golden light like divine intervention. At Mercy General Hospital, doctors worked quickly. Victoria lay in the examination room, James holding her hand while machines beeped reassuringly. "The baby's heartbeat is strong," the doctor said, relief evident in her voice. "You were lucky." "I don't feel lucky," Victoria whispered. James squeezed her fingers. "You survived. That's more than luck. That's strength." While Victoria rested, James made one phone call. "Robert, I need everything on Marcus Lang. Every account, every deal, every lie." His attorney's voice came back certain and cold. "Already started." By morning, the world had changed. The video played on every news channel, dissected on every talk show. But something else was unfolding. Women everywhere were sharing their own stories, emboldened by Victoria's public pain. The hashtag evolved from Santa Justice to No More Silence. Marcus released a statement calling it an unfortunate accident during a stressful evening. But nobody believed him. His company's board called an emergency meeting. Investors pulled funding. Partners severed ties. The man who'd built an empire on charm and ruthlessness watched it crumble in real time. Then Rebecca Stone walked into a police station carrying a flash drive. "I have evidence," she told the detective, her voice steady despite trembling hands. "Financial fraud, offshore accounts, falsified permits, everything he made me help hide." She'd spent years as his accomplice, convinced power was worth the price. But watching him kick his pregnant wife had shattered something in her. "I want immunity," she said, "and I want to help destroy him." The investigation moved swiftly. Federal agents seized computers, froze accounts, and built a case that would take years to dismantle. Marcus was arrested at his penthouse 3 days later, the cameras capturing every moment of his humiliation. 6 months later, Victoria stood before a courtroom, her baby son sleeping peacefully in the arms of her mother in the front row. She wore the same calm she'd found in her hospital bed, not the absence of pain, but the courage to live beyond it. "I married a man I loved," she said, her voice steady. "And I spent years convincing myself that silence was strength, but silence only protects the abuser. Love cannot survive in fear." She paused, looking directly at Marcus. "I'm not here for revenge. I'm here to make sure no one else believes their pain doesn't matter." The verdict came swiftly, guilty on all counts. 22 years without parole. When the gavel struck, Marcus's shoulders slumped, but Victoria felt only relief. The chapter had finally closed. 1 year later, a new building stood in downtown Los Angeles, its glass walls reflecting morning light. The sign read, "The Victoria Foundation," in silver letters, surrounded by evergreen wreaths. Inside, the opening ceremony was underway. Victoria stood at the podium, her son in her arms, her parents beside her. "A year ago, I thought my life had ended," she began, her voice carrying through the hall. "But I learned that endings and beginnings can look the same when you're standing in the middle of them. This foundation offers shelter, legal aid, and counseling for abuse survivors. But more than that, it offers something powerful, the reminder that your voice matters." She looked down at her son, then back at the crowd. "To everyone watching who's ever felt trapped, who's ever believed silence was survival, your story deserves to be told. Healing begins the moment someone looks at you and says, 'I believe you.'" Outside, snow began to fall, soft, quiet, covering the city in white. Victoria stood at the glass doors, watching the flakes drift down, each one unique and fleeting. Her father joined her, slipping his coat over her shoulders. "You built something beautiful," he said quietly. She smiled, holding her son closer. "We all did, together." If Victoria's story moved you, subscribe and hit the notification bell. Share this with someone who needs to hear that their pain matters, that their voice has power. Drop a comment telling us, have you ever found strength you didn't know you had? Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. Remember, silence protects the abuser, but your voice can set you free. We'll see you in the next story. Stay strong, stay safe, and never stop speaking your truth.